Hey everybody, Winham here. All right, I'm gonna jump on this bandwagon and I'm gonna talk about He-Man Revelations. Um, and I'm gonna cut to the punchline of this joke. It sucks. It is a prime example of try hard by somebody who is unskilled at what they are doing. Uh, yeah, Kevin Smith deserves a lot of credit for his past achievements. You can go back and watch those movies now, and they still hold up. And I won't take that away from him. What I will also not take away from him are his failures, and He-Man Revelations is one of them. Um, now, I know there's a lot of hype around this series about the way it was presented, and there are people injecting current political stuff about being woke and all this other stuff. And there's some merit to that discussion, but I'm going to try to put that discussion off to the side. And I don't that discussion almost deserves its own video about the whole woke thing and the way it's affecting, for good or bad, our television series and our movies, and even the way we see them, and the way different aspects of our culture see them. But at the end of the day, I watched He-Man Revelations, and I sat there, and I just watched it, and I kind of went, it came and went in my head. It came and went. I watched the whole thing, and I just kind of got up and walked into my kitchen and grabbed something to drink, and just kind of went, okay, well, that's done. I mean, that's really, I really couldn't even internalize it. It was so bizarre. And it took me a while. I watched it. It's got to be over a month ago. I watched it now, but it took me this long to kind of even be able to put together what my problems with it were, because it was difficult to kind of put my thumb on it first, because if you explain, and now I'm going to spoil the hell out of this, because yeah, He-Man dies by the end of the first episode, literally dies, and the focus is on Teela. Now, if you had explained to me that the focus was going to be on Teela ahead of time, and I deliberately did not look up a whole lot about this, I saw the preview, I heard about it, and I'm like, okay, great, good for them. We'll see how it turns out. And then I watched the actual trailer, and I went, okay, this could be good. Now, of course, the trailer was very misleading, and in hindsight, it turns out it was very misleading. Now that I've learned a little bit more about the production, they basically lied to people about, because word got out that it was going to be mainly about Teela. And they basically lied to people and said, no, it isn't. Then they put out that trailer to say, no, it isn't. And then it was. They flat out lied to people. You can't say that that's an indefendable position on their part to say that oh no, we weren't trying to mislead you into thinking that this series wasn't really about He-Man and we were really going to follow Teela. No, they lied. They absolutely lied. Now, if you would explain to me that, yeah, the series is really going to focus on the world and effects of ongoing effects of certain events through Teela's perspective, I would have said, okay, I don't have a problem with that in and of itself. I think killing off He-Man was a strange decision. And that was the first real kind of, okay, they're trying way too hard to be edgy. I don't even know whether, and I'm not even going into I'm not going to go into the whole whether they're being woke. But they are, I would say they're trying to be edgy, like, cool and just, and again, if you take in the aspect of the show and said, well, we're gonna take everything that existed in the original He-Man and we're gonna make it more mature, and we're gonna kind of approach the entire scenario of what's going on in a more kind of adult sense, in a more mature sense. Again, not a problem. And if you took individual aspects of the series and kind of said, okay, well, we want to kind of do this with this character, and we kind of want to explore this over here, none of it would raise huge red flags for me. And I probably would have gotten excited for the series. Yeah, you know what? I appreciate a series that can be new and original and take something and kind of, give it an interesting twist, and make it, and still stay true to the original and be fun. as opposed to somebody just, basically just bad fan fiction, which in some ways that's kind of what He-Man Revelations is. It's kind of like the Last Jedi, and I know I'm not the first one to make this comparison, but it really is true. It's like the Last Jedi of the He-Man universe, where you got a fanboy to write bad fan fiction, and he was given permission to turn it into a full-length movie, or in this case, a series. And the way that they established some events that happened in the very first episode, and then they fast forward 10 years or whatever it is, and they show how the world has kind of changed. And again, none of this in and of itself is too bad. And I like this. Now, we can look at Avatar: The Last Airbender and then The Legend of Korra. They did a lot of world building in between Aang and Korra, which was great world building. They showed, well, the technology still advances. Life still goes on. Things move forward. They're not, the world of The Last Airbender isn't in this perpetual, quasi-medieval state. And I really appreciate that. That was very bold in a lot of ways, because they were changing up the formula, and I really respected that. So I figured, okay, well, that's kind of what they're going to do here. Now, it's not what they were really doing. It's what they tried to do, and they failed miserably. And I think, I was watching it again the other day with my kids, and some of the problems that I had with it kind of clicked. And that's that the characters' motivations don't make sense. Now, I know that this series is going to draw some obvious parallels and comparisons to the new She-Ra, and I really think you're comparing apples and oranges at this point, because the goal of the initial goal of the writer of each series was very different, and they're not in the same universe. So I'm not comparing them in that sense that they used to be part of the same universe. I'm comparing them in the sense of execution, and how She-Ra was amazingly executed and well done, and He-Man was not. Now, She-Ra, everybody's motivations was clear, and you understood what drove them and made them move forward, and the decisions that they made were based on their personal motivations, and it all made sense. That's not the case in He-Man, and I mean, you could look at some of the decisions that they made in She-Ra, the characters made, and again, that's not the smartest decision, but their motivation is clouding their judgment, and that's fair. Here, though, you don't have a set motivation. You just have stupid people doing stupid things. And to go a little bit deeper, Teela getting all butthurt about finding out that Adam was He-Man this whole time, and then flying off the handle and quitting the whole king and queen thing, and basically turning her back on magic, was just stupid. It was stupid to a point of just like, okay, this is just a plot contrivance to put her in this situation, or in the situation you want her to be 10 years in the future, so you can tell the story you wanted to tell. You're not actually flowing organically from one character's motivation to the other. You're just shoehorning stupidity into, these characters. They're not consistent. And then furthermore, it's well established that magic leaving this world is killing everything. And so you have the rise of these machine cults and things like that, which I'm like, okay, that I understand that. But again, the execution is weird, because there are no machine cults if the planet dies. I mean, this is an established fact within this world. Like, everybody knows this. So the motivation of some of these people... Now, of course, there's always going to be flat earthers in any society, who are going to believe whatever you tell, who are going to just believe stuff to be contrarian, even though there's no evidence to support it. And I'm sorry, if you're a flat earther and you're watching this video, I'm sorry, you're a fucking moron. Unsubscribe to my channel and go fucking watch Hokum elsewhere. Okay, I have no time or use for that kind of bullshit. So back on topic. So yeah, you're gonna get some people that are stupid and they're gonna just, okay, well, I'll become a machine cultist, even though the planet will literally fall apart underneath my feet if I don't try and preserve magic. And Tila knows this better than anybody. She was gonna be like the equivalent of captain of the guard or whatever, and so the fact that she's turning her back on magic altogether, even though it is literally destroying the universe, the place that everybody lives in, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm like, she's just stupid. That's just stupid. The first thing you should be asking yourself is, okay, well, all right, I'm pissed off about a lot of things, and there's going to be some personal reckoning going on between me, Adam, and the king and queen, and Orko, and we're gonna have a big powwow, and we're gonna get our feelings out about certain things that have been transpired over the last couple of years. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I still have a duty here, and I need to save the world. If not me, then somebody. I need to do something. I'm not just gonna bury my head in the sand and pretend that this stuff isn't going on around me. Now, being jaded towards magic makes sense, and that's fine. And she wants to rely more on tech than any sort of magic stuff or magic. Okay, that makes sense. That's not unreasonable. But then we keep coming back to these characters, and their motivations just don't make sense. They're 10 years on, and they're still just now realizing that, oh well, we need to act to repair this damage that's been done. I'm like, really? 10 years on, and you're just now trying to re-recruit Tila? That's stupid. You haven't been trying to repair this damage for the last 10 years? And you've just been hanging on there? And then same thing with some of the, and now a lot of the bad guys come around and kind of go, look, we understand what's going on, we understand how bad things are, and we're here to. Now some of the bad guys become the leaders of these machine cults and these other things, and some of that was actually kind of cool. It was, you're asking yourself, well, what would these characters kind of do without their strong leader in the form of Skeletor, because he dies too. And some of the, there are individual elements of the story that actually are fine and make sense. But overall, every character's motivation is just stupid and petty to the point of being unbelievably stupid and petty. So then we get to, and then, fast forward to being in the afterlife and Adam finally deciding, well, I need to I need to come back and help. I need to come back and help. And the other, champions of Grayskull are kind of like, are you sure you want to do this? You won't come back. And I'm just like, what part of the universe is gone if this fails? Don't you understand? Your heaven literally will cease to exist if this does not work. Because I'm pretty sure heaven would be considered part of the universe. I mean, at least I will say this. Within the series, they did not establish that it exists outside of space-time itself, like the rest of the universe does. That this is someplace you can physically go, because the main character, Tila, and her band of brothers goes there. So this is a place you can physically go. So if it physically exists on some level, then it physically exists within time-space, within the universe. And if the universe ceases to exist, so does your never-ending heaven. Now that actually would have been cool if all the champions came out of heaven with Adam and said, yeah, it's time to take our place again as the champions of Grayskull and help out here. That actually is kind of an exciting idea, and some of those champions were very cool. I was kind of curious. They could have even explored some of their backstory, like how did this person become a champion of Grayskull? That could have made for an amazing second season in and of itself. But yeah, no, it's just they stay there, and Adam comes back, and then supposedly dies again as soon as he comes back. What? So the motivation of these people is stupid. It's just one plot contrivance after another. I don't believe their motivations. The motivations of these characters is stupid. I know some people have had problems with the possible relationship between Tila and her compatriot, her one compatriot who's the tech person. That's shut up. Just stop it. Grow up. Um, but now, I mean, you have the cult of the anti woke. Now, woke is bad enough, but the cult of the anti woke is just getting just as bad. Where it's like if you put a gay character in, or potentially a gay character, or even hint at them being gay, or being somehow ethnically more diverse than what the original series had, they just go off the deep end. And it's like, shut up. Just shut up. Who cares? That in and of itself isn't problematic. But I'll save that rant for another video. But yeah, He-Man and the Master of the Universe is just a fail. It's just a fail. It's a bunch of ideas which, on their own merit, aren't terrible, cobbled together in a really bad, unskillful way that doesn't make any sense, that does not do any justice to the original He-Man story, and is extremely predictable. It's look, I'm gonna call it now. I know this plot line was used in one of like the He-Man comic books, but I already know where they're going with this. I'm almost positive I know where they're going with this, because it's trying to be so edgy that it's become predictable. It's trying to be so edgy and unpredictable that it's become contrived and predictable. And the Sorceress of Grayskull Castle is going to die. Teela is going to find out that she is her mother and that Duncan is her father. And Teela is going to have to take up the mantle of being the Sorceress of Grayskull. And you can see this coming a mile away. You can even see the looks between Duncan and the Sorceress when he goes, "Are you okay? I'm fine." And that little half smile. It's like, okay, we know what's happening. I mean, I think that was like episode 1. I'm like, all right, I know. I'm calling it right now. And to be edgy, that's part of the reason they're making Teela so anti-magic, is because she's going to have to take over being the sorceress. And that's what they talk about when they talk about her power and her destiny and her potential and all that other garbage. And that is garbage. I am so sick of that crap. I mean, at least She-Ra had the decency to talk about destiny and all that and stuff, but you knew where it was coming from. It was all bullshit. It was literally all bullshit put out there by her superiors in the first one, military or whatever the equivalent was, to get her to not march to march with the beat of the drum and stay in line and be a good soldier and do what she needed to do, so that they could use the heart of Etheria as a weapon. That's all it was. It was propaganda. So that made sense, and the way that the mythos of She-Ra was kind of shattered, as She-Ra herself, Adora, figured out what was going on, was good. It was well executed. And she decided, nope, screw all that. I'm going to find my own path and my own way to save the day. And she did. This series has already shown it is not that smart. It is not that smart. So I'm calling the ending right there. Teela's going to be the savior of the universe. She's going to become sorceress. She's going to be the one to really defeat Skeletor. And again, on its own merits, that's not a terrible way to take the plot, but the way they're getting there is so bad. So bad. So, honestly, and the, what was it, Rotten Tomatoes score for the critics is about like in the 80s to 90s. And that's because I have a feeling the critics don't know the backstory of what He-Man is about. they didn't watch it growing up like I did, and the fans did, and that's why the user score is the fan score, whatever it's called, is so low. Because at first glance, not knowing any of the backstory, you can kind of go, you can forgive a lot of these problems. But, and I think maybe that's what I had trouble with when I first watched it. Like I was so far removed from having watched the original He-Man that some of this, I guess, made sense. Not knowing these characters, not knowing any of what happened before, and so in the end, I was a little more forgiving than I probably should have been because I was more just stunned and numb. So I think critics who don't know He-Man might give it a higher score. But the fans are just like, no, this isn't what I'm watching for. And I bet you the second season crashes and burns. Now I will watch it out of simple completionist mentality, but I feel I'm going to be very disappointed with it as well. Because I'm really disappointed with Kevin Smith at this point, and the fact that this shit was turned out the way it was. So anyway, if you were on the fence about watching this, and you're not a fan of He-Man, don't waste your time. If you're a fan of He-Man and you're on the fence, watch it, but have your blood pressure medication handy. Yeah. So, it's bad. Shit-tastic. So, Winter Mute out.